Hello subscribers and patrons and people who just wandered in here by accident. Welcome back to the new show. My name's Random Rob. So, like many of you during the COVID-19 pandemic, I've taken a little time to watch some Netflix this past week. Mostly because I got a free 1-week trial, which is usually a waste of time for someone like me. Every time I get access to some sort of streaming platform, I end up watching one or maybe two movies or shows and letting the subscription lapse. Because in general the movies they produce don't do much for me, and I'm not really that interested in most of the episodic TV that I'm seeing right now. Just not that interested. But there's always an exception. And the exception in this case is the movie I want to talk about today, called I Am Mother, from 2019. I Am Mother was an Australian film production. It was shot at Adelaide Studios in southern Australia. It was directed by Grant Sputor, or Grant Sputori, not quite sure. The screenplay was written by Michael Lloyd Green, and the original story was written by both Sputor and Green. I could not find out exactly how much this film cost, although I would guess probably around 50 or 60 million. The film starred Clara Rugaard, Hilary Swank, and Rose Byrne as the voice of Mother. The robot suit for Mother was designed by Weta Workshops, whose robot designs you would be aware of if you've seen any of Neil Blomkamp's movies. And Neil Blomkamp, whatever happened to him? I guess Chappie was what happened to him. So this was director Grant Sputor's first feature film debut. He'd previously been a commercial director. The film was produced by fledgling film company Penguin Empire, which was financed through a number of Australian film companies. The film originally premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2019 and was favorably reviewed. Studio Canal picked up the film for theatrical release, but the deal fell through and the film ended up being picked up by Netflix, which is probably not a bad thing. I don't know if any of you saw the Half in the Bag episode about the movie Annihilation, but one thing they talked about in that episode was how traditionally more thoughtful science fiction movies tended to end up in theaters, whereas science fiction television tended to be a little dopier, and that a reversal has happened in the past few years, where people prefer to watch their thoughtful sci-fi movies at home on a streaming platform and would rather go to the movies to see big, dopey sci-fi films. So the reason I was saying this is probably a good thing that this film went to Netflix is because it is interesting, thoughtful sci-fi, and it will probably have a better chance of finding its audience on Netflix. But Netflix, or Penguin Empire, you guys need to put out an American Blu-ray of this movie ASAP. It's only available right now on Region 2 Blu-rays, and I'm just not happy with this. I want a copy of this film for myself. So I'm going to do a little plot recap here, and then give a general recommendation, and then I'll get into some spoilers and more specific things. So 35 years, roughly, after some unspecified planetary catastrophe, Mother, a presumably sentient robot, is raising Daughter in a secured underground bunker. Mother loves Daughter, Daughter loves Mother, but Daughter is curious about the outside world, which she is repeatedly told is contaminated, and it's not safe for her to leave or from anything from outside to come in. Stop me if you've heard that one before. When Daughter finds a mouse chewing on cables near the airlock, she realizes that Mother may be wrong about the condition of the outside world. Mother temporarily seals off the airlock area, sterilizes everything, tells Daughter she needs to shower and burn her clothes after exposure to the mouse, and so on. Now, one night when Mother is recharging, Daughter hears a noise coming from the airlock, and she investigates, and it turns out to be a woman survivor who is injured. She's apparently been shot. Mother shows up to investigate, but before she can, daughter tells the woman to hide and keep out of sight, and that she'll come back for her later. As soon as daughter finishes her testing program for the day, she sneaks back to talk to the woman, who tells her that she was shot by a robot, like Mother, and that in the outside world, machines like her hunt down humans. Stop me if you've heard that one before. Daughter gives the woman a contamination suit to wear if she's going to come inside the bunker. And when the woman removes the headgear to drink water, daughter freaks out. What about the contamination? And the woman tells her there is no contamination outside. It's a lie. Mother is lying to you. The woman eventually begins to suffer sepsis from her gunshot wound. Mother finds out and brings the woman into the infirmary to do surgery on her, which the woman ardently refuses. Eventually, daughter has to do the surgery on her to save her life. It's around this time that Mother gives daughter a present for having nearly aced her most recent exam, and she allows her to select the next embryo from a vault where thousands of embryos are stored. And Mother and daughter have a bonding moment. Mother seems distrustful of the woman in the infirmary and tells daughter that the slug that daughter removed from the woman was actually from the same kind of weapon that the woman was carrying, that daughter finds in her bag. That is, she was shot by a human, not by a robot. When daughter confronts the woman in the infirmary with this information, the woman tells her, "Did you see the slug for yourself? Did you see with your own eyes whether it was different?" Daughter eventually sneaks into the laboratory while Mother is recharging again and uses part of her damaged hand to unlock one of the many secured cabinets to look at the two bullets, and finds that they are different, and realizes the woman was shot by a robot. Daughter is now actively beginning to distrust Mother, but she's still not entirely sure of the woman either, who tells daughter, "You should leave here and come with me." Although daughter is entertaining the notion of leaving, she wants to at least stay at the bunker until her baby brother is born so that she can take him out and take care of him on her own. Eventually, the woman and daughter try to execute their escape, with daughter planning to return at some later time to retrieve her brother, and of course, Mother finds out and tries to intervene. And that's all I'll say regarding the plot if you have not seen it. As for a recommendation, I give this film a big thumbs up, with a caveat. This is a very derivative feeling work. Some parts of it feel copy and pasted from a Fallout game. Other aspects feel directly ripped from Terminator movies. In fact, in some ways, I Am Mother almost feels like a Terminator fanfic, albeit a really good one. Being derivative isn't always a bad thing if you have a good story to tell, and I think this film does have a good story to tell. It had, to me, just the right amounts of irony and ambiguity that gave it a really mythic feeling to it. You know, that is a creation myth or an origin myth. Another caveat I would mention is that this film does have a rather melodramatic climax, which you would probably expect. This climax, however, is followed by a postscript scene that is brutally dark and puts a really ambiguous spin on the ending, and I loved it. I Am Mother is also one of those rare science fiction films with a really memorable robot antagonist. Rose Byrne, who did the voice for Mother, is really perfect from scene to scene. She seems alternately compassionate suspicious, and downright frightening. And not unlike HAL 9000, she comes off like a vengeful demigod, and I loved it. And I would say if you have Netflix, or like me, you have a week subscription and want to see something that's true to some old school sci-fi roots, definitely check out I Am Mother. And so now I'll get into some spoilers about the ambiguous ending. So if you don't want to know, you better skip this part. In the climactic scene of I Am Mother, daughter returns from the outside world to retrieve her brother and confronts mother, and ultimately convinces mother to relinquish control of the bunker and the embryos to her. Her argument being, you've done everything you can to raise me, to make me a supremely objective and ethical human being. Shouldn't I be the one to raise these children? And in the melodramatic moment I described earlier, mother agrees and lets daughter terminate her, even though it's clear at this point that mother is not simply the robot in the bunker, but mother is all of the robots and machines that exist outside of the bunker as well. In the postscript scene, we see the woman in her shipping container on the beach where she has been living, presumably waiting for daughter to return to her. But instead, one of mother's robots shows up and makes a statement that implies that this woman's very existence may have been orchestrated by mother all along to provide an ethical choice for daughter, to choose of her own free will to raise the children. After which we see her shut the door to the shipping container, and it's implied that the robot murders the woman. And while I think that's a suitably dark and creepy ending, I'm not sure it actually matches up with the way that mother is portrayed in the film, in that she is always totally focused on keeping daughter safe. Since, as we find out, daughter is the first embryo in almost 40 years that she was able to raise to maturity without any defects. So what I got from the ending was more of an emotional take on it, in that mother sacrifices control of the bunker to daughter to show her that she actually loves her, to convince her, and that the murder of the woman at the end is the price of that love. Not so much eliminating a loose end or eliminating a tool that's no longer useful, but rather an act of vengeance. You know, yes, you can have the key to the future of humanity, but this is the price. Interpreting it that way gave it a much more mythic feel to me, and felt more consistent with the portrayal of mother's character. Whichever way the ending can be interpreted, I really thought this was an exceptional little sci-fi film. Felt like the writer and the director really knew what they were going for, which was a simple, primal, fairy tale kind of sci-fi story. I really liked it. There were a lot of cool little details in this film too. One of my favorite being when mother catches the woman and daughter in the airlock trying to escape, the woman takes daughter hostage and puts a knife to her throat and says, "Oh, open up or I'm going to kill her." And mother doesn't say anything or react visibly, except her little camera eye, the light just flickers. In the same way someone would blink rapidly when they were dealing with a stressful situation. I loved that detail. And I also appreciated the use of CG effects in this film. They were not overdone. The scenes where it was used were for clear, strong visuals. I just liked everything about this film. Check it out. And if you have seen it, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Did you agree with my take on the ending? Leave me a comment. And if you liked what you heard, press like and subscribe and consider becoming a patron of the new show, because I could use your help. Alright, that's all for now. This is Random Rob for the new show, signing off. See you next time. The new show is made possible by generous support from viewers like Tony, Luz, Arnell, Skipnick, Christopher, Eric, and B. Thank you so much for your support.